Thank you for inviting me to be here, especially Professor Dan Plesh. Also, I was very moved when I watched the video on the prominent Methodist leader, Michael Eaves. I'm so excited about the possibility of meeting him soon. Thank you for that. And I didn't know that you were anonymous Methodist. Anyway, I think Methodist people are singing Christians, Charles Wesley's tradition. So probably Michael learned from that tradition. And also Koreans are known as Eastern Irish people in East Asia. So we love singing, and that's why K-pop has come from. And I remember, I think Dan and you and me belong to the Beatles generation, not BTS, but John Lennon's phrase in Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. I think that is still very prophetic, because we are now struggling in conflict and war because of what? In the name of nationalism. I think nationalism is #1 heresy, according to my theological judgment. So international effort to activate the special session on disarmament in the coming UN General Assembly is a very, I think, important, and is our whole, I think, the humankind's common mission. And I appreciate what the strategic concept for removal of arms and proliferation, scrap, that indicates. I really like that phrase, strategic concept. You know. So I think I have been learning, and I still will learn through this conference, a lot of strategic concepts. And because I'm theologian, I'm not really well-versed in this disarmament argument and discourses. So I'm learning, I'm getting a lot from you. As a theologian and a pastor, but I can contribute to not strategic concept, but maybe spiritual intuition. As Immanuel Kant says, concept without intuition is empty. Of course, intuition without concept is very dangerous because it is blind. And also, I appreciate the Scrap's effort in incorporating the feminist movement in this disarmament effort. For me, bombs carry these phallic symbols, which have to be deconstructed only by the feminist logic and praxis. So I do feel deep solidarity with feminist counter logic, and counter praxis against nuclear arms and arms race. Let me just, because I come from Korea and representing World Methodist Council, so during my presidential term, I have been focusing on this issue. So let me begin with the Korean issue. According to 2021 World Military Expenditures and Arms Transfers, which is the final edition, the US Department of State published, the North Korea's military expenditure per GDP from 2009 to 2019 has been #1 in the world. The military expenditure of North Korea during this period is the average 23.5% of GDP, while only 2.5% of GDP in South Korea. However, the real amount of North Korean military expenditure is quite smaller than that of South Korea. It's in 6 times, even 10 times sometimes. The bellicose rhetoric of Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, in his speech on July 27, 2022, 69th anniversary of Korean War armistice, reflects the desperate military and economic situation of North Korea. The new conservative government of South Korea has provoked North Korea by the statement of preemptive strike. The tension will increase as the South Korea-US joint military drills, which took place from August 22 to September 1, are going to be conducted, was conducted on a larger scale in late August till September 1st. It is shocking, but no wonder that Kim warned of nuclear war deterrence by saying, quote, "The Yoon Suk-yeol government and his army will be annihilated," unquote. As more and more powerful US weapons are expected to be deployed for the joint military drills, even while North Korea is preparing to conduct its 7th nuclear test, the arms race on the Korean Peninsula will intensify in the coming month. In the keynote address of the Beijing Forum 2010, the renowned German theologian Jürgen Moltmann raised an important question. Quote, "What happens when a nation possessing nuclear weapons becomes obsessed with this religion of death and turns into a collective suicidal assassin against the rest of the human world because it is driven into a corner and gives up all hope," unquote. Therefore, the first and foremost priority of disarmament and peace at the brink of nuclear war is dialogue and diplomacy on the basis of compassionate listening to the enemy. Sincerely acknowledging the right of the other side to exist, we have to think about and even empathize with what's going on inside North Korea, not just along the demilitarized zone. It was the former US ambassador to South Korea, my mentor, James Delaney, who tried to shift American foreign policy from snubbing the North Koreans to working to find common ground to be human and humane, critiquing both neocon imperialism as well as liberal imperialism of the US, imposing its will upon the world. Laney sees the heritage of American constitutional democracy lies in the mission, quote, "to be a people of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, for whom life is larger than the self. The expression of that largeness is a quality of spirit and generosity, colleagueship, participation, just sympathy, the ability to think in behalf and for another person." The next step of peace and reconciliation is to organize for peace, not for war. A new format of the six-party talk, namely P3+3, 3 nuclear states and UN Security Council member states of the US, Russia, and China, plus 3 UN member states of South Korea, North Korea, and Japan, has to be resumed with a new modus vivendi for establishing the denuclearized zone in Northeast Asia. The diplomatic format to overcome the threat of nuclear weapons is still appropriate for full international cooperation, a matter of the organization of power in the comprehensive international system. Furthermore, a bottom-up organizing for peace is necessary to complete the above-mentioned top-down approach. Korea Peace Appeal is an international campaign that seeks to amplify voices calling for an end to the Korean War and a transition from armistice to peace. More than 370 South Korean civil organizations, religious groups, individual supporters, and more than 70 international partner organizations, including the World Methodist Council, are participating in the Korea Peace Appeal. The peace treaty should be the final stage of Korean peace appeal. The grassroots process of peace treaty movement has to be carried out by resisting the South Korea-US joint military drills, violating the mutual defense treaty between the United States and Republic of Korea. While the US and South Korea describe their exercise as defensive, The drills will reportedly include exercise simulating joint attacks. China, North Korea's main ally, expressed concern over the expansion of US military exercises with its Asian allies, saying they could worsen tensions with North Korea. There is also increasing evidence that the sanctions regime on the DPRK is having adverse humanitarian consequences, unlike imposing the sanctions against the apartheid, by which the ecumenical bodies, including World Methodist Council, triumphantly resisted. We are called by God to be united in deep solidarity for lifting the unethical sanctions, causing adverse humanitarian and developmental consequences, exacerbating rates of domestic violence, sexual violence, and the trafficking and prostitution of women. Therefore, it is appropriate to ponder that Dietrich Bonhoeffer said in his address to Fano Ecumenical Conference long time ago in 1934, quote, "There is no way to peace along the way of safety, for peace must be there. It is the great adventure, great venture. It can never be made safe. Peace is the opposite of security. To demand guarantees is to mistrust, and this mistrust in turn brings forth war." Unquote. Animosity caused by mistrust has increased on the Korean Peninsula since US-North Korea nuclear negotiations derailed in early 2019 because of differences over relaxation of crippling US-led sanctions on North Korea in exchange for disarmament steps. Kim Jong-un has since declared North Korea will bolster its nuclear deterrent in the face of gangster-like US pressure and halted all cooperation with South Korea. Furthermore, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased the isolation of North Korea. Borders have slammed shut, trade shut down, and the besieged mentality caused increasing dependence on nuclear weapons. North Korea has already warned of deadly retaliation against South Korea over its COVID-19 outbreak, which it dubiously claims was caused by anti-North Korean propaganda leaflets and other objects flown across the border by balloons launched by Southern activists. Mistrust growing and growing. Hannah Arendt said that the most creative human act is the act of forgiveness. Act of forgiveness. Releasing the other from the past. Mr. Reverend John Wesley, in his sermon, General Spread of the Gospel, he wrote, quoting Prophet Isaiah, "They shall all know me, not from the greatest to the least, but from the least to the greatest." From the least to the greatest. So we are all intellectuals and the upper class and the greatest people, but we have to begin from the bottom, from the least, the grassroots, the common people. And another quote, this peace movement has to begin from heart to heart, from town to town, from nation to nation. Not international levels, not top down, but from heart to heart. That's why religious intuition and religious artistic healing and sharing is so important, from heart to heart, from town to town, and from nation to nation. May God bless you and continue to thrive with this peace effort. God bless you. Thank you.